Welcome back to the Forex Fortress, where I'm having the worst day possible, but you know it doesn't matter because we got plenty to talk about and following up on some short-term time frame Bitcoin analysis as well. So with that said, let's get into it. Starting with good old Dixie as always, and Dixie falling through with a reversal right now, weekly headed towards the 10-month moving average, of which I would be looking for a little bit of a pullback over there. And I do want to be very clear with this. While I do think that there is going to be, more or less a greater reversal from this region, I would still be looking at this as likely to take its time. I would recall to the past few reversals that we have seen on this one, both from the highs and the lows, but with specific interest on the lows as well. This one would be a low within the context of this current trend. And as you can see over here, it took about 2.5-3 months before an actual reversal was put in place. So there's no real rush. And while I would be looking for, again, a further upside over time on Dixie, which is going to put a lot of pressure on all of the US dollar pairings, aka Bitcoin as well, if that is what you're interested in, then that would still, I do believe, take a little bit of time. And of course, we can pull back through a few more as well. You can see that this one over here taking about 2.5 months here, and this one over here very similar actually. This one actually the fastest of them all, but again, that was not a major low. This one, and this one all taking multiple weeks on end. So as it stands right now, I would be looking for it to further have a little bit of upside on the short-term time frames, likely up to wherever the 10 symbol is on the weekly, and that is likely to align with our daily pivot point, which is going to be right around here. It looks like, if I had to call it, it's going to be right about 90.69. See what the weekly says right here. Yeah, we'll be coming down a little bit. So anywhere between there and about 90.85, I would be looking for a little bit of a pushback. Again, not a full-on reversal back onto the downside, but I'll be looking for it to range a bit between that area and our current low structure, which is 89.90-ish region. So with that in mind, do I have any actually very short-term time frame biases on this one? Yeah, short-term, a little bit more upside right here, and I'll be looking for a pushback around that region, short-term time frame. All right, so going down the list here, Aussie dollar, I'd imagine we're going to be looking at a bit of a pullback, and with that in mind, I would be looking for this one just to pull back a little bit more in the short term, down to 77 cent even, at which point I would be looking for a bit of a bounce there, looking at the daily right here. Same thing, don't really have anything to add off that. So we are kind of in a bouncy territory for the short-term timeframes, but ultimately I do believe that this one will reach lower on the daily towards 76.30, but first bounce, first lower, bounce off that region, then lower to that next target. And the weekly, a bit of a backfill on the last open thus far. So I would be looking for a bounce off that, off that lower region, so to speak. Anyways, moving on. What do we have with CAD dollar right here? A bit of a reversal, actually, as we do have a Doji Dildo in place. Take that, Mrs. Kids in the background. And what do we see on top of that? We do see continuation below it, actually, which is rather interesting. Or actually, sorry, no, we do not officially see continuation. We're right at the point. If you see this literally take one small tick, I'm talking about a not point, not one tick to the downside from here. We might even see it right now. Then yes, that will be reversal. I will look for further downside towards 77.75. What do we see on the 4 hour over here? Yeah, down to this area right here. So 78 region short term. So I'd be looking for short term downside. Daily probably does bounce off that region. So maybe a little bit of medium term bouncage, but weekly and short term timeframes are downside here. So with that in mind, we'll move on to Swiss franc dollar over here. Very, very similar chart actually. I would be looking for a drive down towards a 10 simple moving average, which is 111.77 actually, going down to the daily over here. What do we see? Yeah, that'd be right around the 55 it looks like. So I do like that area. So down on the higher and the medium term time frames. What about the low term time frames? Down as well. So down on all time frames. Down we go, baby. Down we go. Dixie driving the fucking saddle right now. The kids are crying now. Thanks, Crown. Sorry. If you're wondering what's going on right now, we are on Twitch currently, and there seems to be some issues in the background. There's children present, and they can't be hearing these goddamn motherfucking swear words, which is really a big issue right now. So with that said, moving on to euro dollar, what do we see? A little bit short term downside here as well. I would be looking out for a bounce off the 200 simple and 200 exponential average, which are actually synonymous with each other right now. Actually pulling into each other, which typically does actually pull price action into it, which is kind of strange because that's not something that's typically spoken about, but it's just something that I've noticed, especially in Bitcoin land too. But this one having that same sort of signature. What about on daily? We do see a little bit of downside here too. Daily is actually in a bit of a free fall motion, and the weekly a clear reversal. I would be looking for a more long-term downside towards 121. Finally, motherfucker, euro dollar coming down to good old to a better area for me at least. So yeah, short-term down, long-term down. Pound yen, what do we see right here? A little bit of a short-term bounce it looks like. Daily I don't know on this one. A healthy amount of I don't know on this one is probably good. Weekly is still working on lower highs, I believe. We have a closure here, 141.92, 141.86. Yes, so technically still lower highs, just barely. So if I did have to call this one, while I don't necessarily feel as confident on this one, I would be looking for another drive down to the 10 simple at 139.61. We did hit our targets from last week, so that is good. But short-term timeframes, I think that a healthy amount of I don't know is in order there. Looking at pound dollar, weekly down to the 10 simple as well, 134 I'd be looking for, and it rhymes, so you know it's good. Daily down as well. I'd be looking for the daily to reach a little bit lower, but I don't have a good, I'd be looking for it short term down to about 134. Sorry, what is this? 134 or 135? 134 and a half. No, 134 and a half is where I'd be looking towards. And so that one's bearish on short term and long term, medium term. Medium term probably bounces somewhere in between. Moving on to yen dollar. What do we see right here? Down, baby. Down we go. The dollar fighting back right now, so I'd be looking for this one to come back down to the 89 at about 95.70-ish region. Weekly is, coming down to the 21 as well, so I do like bounces off that region, but pretty much everything down right now. What about NASDAQ? Even NASDAQ's keeping it up for now, but technically market hasn't opened just yet. We still got another 6 minutes until traditional markets open. If this one does want to come down with the rest of the market, I'd be looking for somewhere around 12,950. About 12,950 right around here, and then a bit of a bounce implied around that region. Looking at the daily, I still like the daily long term. I'm not bearish on this chart, at least as it is. Same thing with the weekly, so I do think that it probably comes back down and fills last open, which, that would actually imply a little bit more. Yeah, that actually imply a little bit more downside, maybe all the way down to 12.9, but I would look at that as an opportunity. This one I'm not, I would not be bearish on. Gold is a big one that I want to talk about. So yes, we did hit our 1950 target last week it was, and I was looking for extension on that to 2050. However, we did identify that on Friday. That was likely to be wrong due to the fact that we were crashing back down below the 21 right here, and also structure right around 1910, which was the big one for me. Now that has actually been confirmed, which I believe we spoke about in the weekend as well, I would be looking for the weekly to come all the way down towards 1785. The green 55 exponential average right here looks good to me, and that is going to look like a full we quite literally have a weekly downtrend here, which we haven't had since since this whole phase. As you can see, we do have 1 2 3 lower highs, 1 2 lower lows. That is indeed a trend, and I would be looking at it as my friend, at least for now. So yeah, some more downside here likely in order as well. Bitcoin, the one of the most interesting ones of the day. I do want to go back on to the very low term time frames right here. We were talking about this on Twitch as well. I am looking for a little bit of how do I explain this? So I am both looking for downside, but don't mistake downside with like a full-on fucking crash here. What I'm looking for is Bitcoin to form a range between its current wick low, which is about 32. What is this? About 32. About 32,000 bucks. It looks like probably put in a few more wicks around here, but I would be looking for this area to actually bounce it up once again. As long as there's no closures below this region, I would essentially be looking for it to get picked back up and try to put in a rally, probably somewhere back up to 37,000 bucks. At which point, game on once again. Above 37,000 bucks, so things do get interesting once again, as I would be looking for another drive, likely back up to fill around the CME closure on Friday, which was just below 40,000 bucks. So that'd be this guy right here at about 39,300-ish region is where I'd be targeting. But of course, one before the next, and as it is right now, I'd be looking for a few more wicks down around here. I'm not looking for necessarily a breakage in this region. I'm looking for a bounce within this region, and then game on probably once again tomorrow. I'm curious what the 12-hour looks like as well. 12-hour breaking below the 21 and downward slope to not good, and 12-hour Stokes actually breaking the trend line here too, which is very not good. This one right here that we drew in this morning, so that is not going to work. So that is a clear signal that actually we may just go lower, in fact. Well, party over. No, I'm not actually saying that. At the end of the day, Bitcoin actually puts another wick down to the 21 exponential moving average on the daily. I'd be looking for a bounce around there. Again, I do think that Bitcoin's going to once again test the downside, but I wouldn't necessarily be calling a break of the downside. I'd be looking for it to more or less form a range between where we're at right now and about I guess on the short term time frames that would be 35. What is it? 35.5 or 35.3? More like 35.3 actually. But realistically, I do think it will give another try up towards 37,000 bucks, just range here for a little bit. And for all the people asking, yes, I did get out of my position from earlier this morning. I did let it go at just above 35,000 bucks. Thank God, because at the end of the day, you're probably gonna need another chance to buy this area down here as well. And I might even just do that. I might even go for a little scalpy scalp. With that in mind, I'm curious what momentum oscillators look like right now. We do see 4-hour Stokes will cross back onto the upside with any sort of a closure above 34,000 and about 100. And seeing as price action is currently 33,600, that wouldn't take too much. So if you do start to see, again, like another wick lower and then it closed above 34,000, that would be a damn good sign that we probably are going to see a bit of short-term bottoming action. And at that point, I likely will, I probably will take another position in target, maybe a little bit higher this time towards like 36,500 to 37,000 bucks, right in this territory right here. But for right now, again, pressure onto the downside, and I want to see these, and I want to see that criteria met first, but it is in motion. And just out of curiosity, what's the other lower term time frames doing? 3 hour looks abysmal, actually. Bi-hourly looks pretty shitty too. Hourly looks very terrible as well. So you know what? Should I talk about conditions for further downside continuation? Yeah, I should. I certainly should. So where would I mark off here using a 4 hour? Okay, let's go to a fresh chart actually. So I do want to do this with a completely new one, seeing as that chart is all convoluted right now. And how do we mark this off? So I do this low right here. I do this one right here, which we're currently kind of digging into, but this one doesn't really hold any significant weight. And then of course we got this one right here, getting our current highs for the short-term time frames, and then we got the 37 target right here. And so if Bitcoin does break below this level right here, it doesn't really mean all that much. This one's a big one. This one's just below 31,000 bucks. It's 30,750 to be exact. The reason why this one's big is because it would start to actually put in a bit of a downtrend on the 12 hour. If the 12 hour goes into a downtrend, a confirmed downtrend, which would once again be confirmed by closing below this region, then I would start to target moves into the, I mean, technically speaking, the upper $27,000 region would be, would be the next target, but I don't think things would stop there. I do think that things would likely come down further south, and we could actually get my fucking prized area at 24,000 bucks, as that is what I'd really love to patiently wait for a long-term trade, but who knows if I actually get that. Then again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Of course, one level before the next. And with that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest. Take a look at Dixie. Keep an eye on it. And with that said, until next time.